you're lying awake again. Not because anything terrible happened. Just that familiar tightness in the chest. The thought loop that won't stop. What they said, what they didn't say, whether they still feel the same, whether you're holding on too hard or not enough. The mind keeps reaching, checking, measuring the distance between you and the person you love. This is the restlessness that comes with caring deeply. It's not wrong to feel it, but it's exhausting. There's a way the heart can hold someone without gripping, a way to love that doesn't constantly ask for proof. But first, we have to see what we're actually doing when we cling. Take a breath. Not a special breath. Just notice the one that's already happening. The air moving in, the slight pause, the release. Clinging feels like love because it's so intense. It occupies the whole mind. It makes us feel like we're doing something, like we're protecting what matters. But if you look closely, clinging is not really about the other person. It's about trying to make something permanent that cannot be permanent. It's about trying to control what we cannot control. Think of water cupped in your hands. When you hold it gently, it stays. The surface settles. You can see through it clearly. But the moment you squeeze, afraid it will slip away, it runs between your fingers. The tighter the grip, the faster it's gone. This is not because the water wants to leave. It's because of the nature of water and the nature of hands. Relationships are like this, not because people are unreliable, not because love is fragile, but because everything that arises passes through change. Every conversation, every feeling, every moment of closeness. We know this, but we don't want it to be true. So we clench. You can feel it in the body. The way the shoulders tense when they don't text back quickly. The knot in the stomach when they seem distant. The tightness in the throat when you're afraid to say the wrong thing. These are not just emotions. They are physical contractions. The body trying to hold on. Attachment is not the same as love. Love can be spacious. Attachment is always tight. Love allows the other person to be who they are. Attachment needs them to be a certain way so that we can feel okay. Love trusts the unfolding. Attachment tries to script it. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop confusing care with control. You stop mistaking anxiety for devotion. The Buddha spoke about this often. He used the word upadana, which means clinging or grasping. It's one of the links in the chain of suffering. We grasp at pleasant experiences, wanting them to last. We push away unpleasant ones, wanting them to end. And we cling to people, wanting them to stay exactly as they are, wanting the feeling of connection to remain unchanged. But nothing remains unchanged. Not the feeling, not the person, not you. When you see this clearly, something softens. Not because you've given up, but because you've stopped fighting the basic truth of how things are. Listen to the sounds around you. Whatever is there, the hum of a room, distant traffic, your own breathing. Notice how each sound arises and fades. You don't have to hold on to any of them. They come, they go. And still, there is awareness. Still, there is listening. This is what it means to love without clinging, to be present without grasping, to care deeply while allowing change. It's not easy. The mind has been trained to secure, to lock down, to make sure. Especially with the people we love most. The ones whose presence feels necessary. The ones we're afraid to lose. But fear is not the same as love either. Fear tightens, love opens. You might notice right now, even as you listen, a small resistance. A voice that says, if I let go, I'll lose them. If I stop worrying, something bad will happen. If I don't hold on, they'll drift away. This is the voice of attachment. It sounds urgent, it sounds true, but it's based on a misunderstanding. It believes that clinging keeps people close. It doesn't. Clinging pushes them away, or it makes the relationship feel like a cage. What keeps people close is presence, honesty. The willingness to see them as they actually are, not as we need them to be. Feel your hands right now. Are they clenched? Let them open, just a little. Notice what that feels like. The release, the softness, the space. This is where we begin, not with big declarations or sudden transformations, but with the smallest gesture of letting go. With one breath that doesn't try to hold on to the next. With one moment of noticing the difference between love and fear. We'll stay here a while. We'll look closely at what attachment actually is, how it forms, how it tightens, and how, gradually, the heart learns to hold without grasping. There is a moment that happens quietly in almost every close relationship. You notice it in your body before you notice it in your mind. Your chest tightens, your shoulders draw inward. You feel the urge to hold something, or someone, just a little bit tighter, to make sure it stays, to make sure they stay. This tightening is not love. It is something that happens alongside love, often so mixed in that we mistake one for the other. The Buddha called this craving, not desire in the simple sense. Craving is the grasping that comes after desire. It is the moment when you stop wanting something and start needing it to be a certain way, to be permanent, to be yours, to not change. When we love someone, we naturally want them close. That is not the problem. The problem comes when we try to freeze that closeness, when we try to make it permanent by controlling it, by controlling them. We do this in small ways and large ways. We do it without always knowing we are doing it. Think of water held in an open palm. The palm is relaxed. The fingers are loose. The water sits there, cool and present. You can feel its weight. You can feel its temperature. You can see the light moving through it. And then, because you are afraid of losing it, you close your fingers. You make a fist. You squeeze. And what happens? The water runs out between your knuckles. The harder you squeeze, the faster it leaves. The thing you were trying to hold is the first thing to escape. This is what happens in relationships when we grasp. We hold our partner's attention with demands. We hold their time with guilt. We hold their affection with conditions. We tell ourselves we are protecting the relationship. We are protecting love. But what we are actually doing is squeezing the very thing we want to keep. The person we love is not water, of course. They are a person with their own mind, their own needs, their own life that exists whether we are watching it or not. When we try to control them, to make them available exactly when we want them, to feel exactly what we want them to feel, to stay exactly as they are, we are trying to stop them from being a person. We are trying to stop them from changing. And they will change. Everyone changes. That is not a failure of love. That is what being alive means. There is something we need to see here. The craving to hold someone comes from fear. Fear that they will leave. Fear that they will change in ways we do not like. Fear that we are not enough to keep them. This fear is understandable. It is human. But it is also based on a misunderstanding. We believe that if we just control things tightly enough, we can make them permanent. We can make them safe. And this belief is false. Nothing is permanent. Not the person you love today. Not their feelings. Not the relationship itself. Not even you. The person you are right now will be different tomorrow. Different in small ways, perhaps, but different. And the person you love will be different too. This is not a tragedy. This is the nature of being alive. When we understand this, not just intellectually but in our bones, something shifts. The grip loosens. not because we stop caring. We care more clearly when we are not gripping. We see the person more clearly. We hear them more clearly. We are present with them as they actually are, rather than as we need them to be. The open palm does not mean indifference. It means attention without control. It means loving someone while allowing them to be separate from you. It means wanting them close while accepting that they might leave. It means caring deeply while holding lightly. This is not easy. The urge to grip comes back. It comes back again and again, especially in moments when we feel uncertain or afraid. And each time it comes, we have a choice. We can notice it. We can feel where it lives in our body, the tightness in the chest, the tension in the jaw, the way the breath becomes shallow. We can acknowledge the fear underneath it, and then we can slowly, gently, let the fingers open. This is where you might begin to notice something for yourself. Not in theory, but in your actual life. Today, as you move through your time with someone you love, there will be a moment when you feel that familiar urge. The urge to say something that will make them understand how much you need them. The urge to check in, to confirm they still care. The urge to hold them in some way. It might be small. A text sent with a little too much hope attached. A question asked with an edge of anxiety underneath. When that moment comes, pause. Feel it in your body. Feel the difference between the natural warmth of love and the tightness of grasping. Feel what it is like when you are trying to hold something versus when you are simply present with it. That difference is not abstract, it is real. It lives in your muscles, your breath, your nervous system. You can feel it directly. This is how you know the difference. Not through words or ideas, but through sensation. Through the quiet awareness of your own body, moment by moment, as you move through the people and relationships that matter most to you. There is something that happens in love when we begin to grip. Not at first. At first there is openness, a kind of ease. But then, gradually, almost without noticing, the quality of our presence changes. We move from being with someone to holding someone. And the holding is tight. This tightness has a source, though we rarely look at it directly. We do not cling to another person because love itself demands clinging. We cling because we are afraid. Specifically, we are afraid of what happens when we are alone with ourselves. Think of a vine that wraps around a tree. At the beginning, the vine simply grows upward using the tree for support. The tree is there. The vine grows. This is natural. But if the vine wraps so tightly that it forgets it has its own roots, something has shifted. The vine is no longer growing toward the light. It is gripping out of fear that without the tree, it would fall. And in gripping so hard, the vine cuts off its own circulation. It begins to strangle itself. This is what happens in relationships when we cling. We are not clinging because the other person is so valuable that we cannot let go. We are clinging because we cannot bear to be alone with ourselves. And in that clinging, we cut off something essential in ourselves. We forget that we too have roots. There is a teaching from the early tradition that says this plainly: the one who clings to another has not yet learned to stand in their own presence. This is not a judgment. It is an observation. It is like noticing that a person cannot swim because they have never learned to float. The observation itself contains no blame. It simply describes what is missing. What does it mean to stand in your own presence? It does not mean to be happy alone. It does not mean to be perfectly content with yourself. It means to be able to sit with yourself without needing to escape. To notice what arises when there is no distraction, no other person to focus on. no story to tell about who you are in relation to someone else. When we cling in relationships, we are often using that other person as an escape hatch. Not consciously, but if you watch closely, you will notice that whenever you feel uncomfortable in your own mind, you reach for them. You call, you text, you think about them, you make plans, you replay conversations, you imagine futures. All of this is a very sophisticated way of not being alone with yourself. And what are we afraid of finding when we are alone? Usually, it is simple things: emptiness, boredom, the fact that we are not constantly important or needed, the sense that we are fundamentally alone no matter how close we are to another person. We are afraid of our own ordinariness. The vine grips the tree because it believes the tree is holding it up. But the vine has roots. The vine could stand. The tree is not the problem. The vine's belief about itself is the problem. In relationships, we do the same thing. We believe the other person is holding us up. We believe that without them, we would fall apart. And because we believe this, we grip. We become jealous. We become possessive. We become anxious about whether they love us enough. We perform versions of ourselves designed to keep them interested. We lose track of our own roots. The fear underneath all of this is not really fear of losing the other person. It is fear of being left alone with ourselves. It is fear that if we stop performing, if we stop gripping, if we stop making the other person the center of our world, we will discover that we are empty, that we are not enough on our own. But here is what actually happens when you learn to stand in your own presence. The quality of your love changes. It becomes lighter. It becomes more real. You can be with another person without needing them to complete you. You can love them without clinging to them. You can let them be themselves without trying to shape them into what you need them to be. This shift does not happen through thinking about it. It happens through direct experience. It happens when you sit alone long enough to notice what actually arises, and you discover that it is not as terrible as you feared. So the practice is simple. Sit alone for 5 minutes without distraction. No phone, no music, no book, no one else. Just you and whatever arises in your mind and body. Notice what comes up: restlessness, sadness, boredom, anxiety, loneliness. Don't try to change it. Don't try to fix it. Just notice it the way you might notice clouds passing through the sky. Do this, and something gradually becomes clear. The fear is not as solid as you thought. The emptiness is not as empty as you feared. And most importantly, you discover that you can be alone with yourself. You can stand in your own presence. You are not the vine that has forgotten its roots. You have roots. They have been there all along. There is something we do without meaning to, something so quiet we almost don't notice it. When we love someone, we begin to hold them still in our mind. We make an image of them, how they laugh, the way they turn their head, what they believe, what they want. And then we love that image. We protect it. We expect it to stay. But the person sitting across from you right now is not the person you fell in love with. They are not the same person they were yesterday, and they will not be the same person tomorrow. This is not sad news, though it can feel that way at first. It is just what is true. In Zen, there is a simple teaching about two people who love each other. They sit together. Each one is whole. Each one breathes their own breath. No one possesses the other's breath. That is the whole thing, not ownership, not fusion. Two separate beings choosing to be near, we forget this. We think love means holding on. We think it means knowing someone completely, keeping them safe inside our certainty about who they are. We make rules for them in our minds. We decide what they should do, what they should want, how they should be, and when they change, when they become someone slightly different than the person we decided they were, we feel betrayed. We tighten our grip. We try harder to keep them still, but grip and stillness are opposites to what a person actually is. A person is moving, always. In this breath, their body is different than it was in the last breath. Their thoughts are shifting. Their understanding is deepening or narrowing or turning sideways. Their cells are dying and being born. Even when they sit very still, they are changing. Think of two trees growing side by side. Their roots are separate. They do not merge into one root system. Each tree draws water and nutrients from its own place in the earth. And yet, sometimes their branches touch. Sometimes they grow in ways that intertwine. The branches can move closer or farther apart, depending on the wind, the seasons, the direction of growth. Neither tree owns the other. Neither tree stays exactly the same shape from year to year. And somehow, the fact that they are separate and changing does not make them less connected. It makes the connection real. When we try to hold a person still, we are trying to stop their branches from moving. We are trying to make them into something fixed that we can know completely and protect completely. But a person cannot be protected that way. A person cannot be loved that way. The moment you think you know someone fully, they are already becoming someone new. This does not mean love is impossible. It means love is different than we thought. It means love is the willingness to meet someone who is always becoming. It is the willingness to let them change and to change yourself and to stay present to that change instead of fighting it. When you watch someone you love, really watch them, you begin to see this. You see it in small ways. The way their face looks different when they are tired. The way their voice changes when they are thinking about something that troubles them. The way they have learned a new skill or forgotten something they used to know or become kinder than they were before. These changes are always happening. We just usually miss them because we are too busy holding the old image of them in place. There is a practice that can help you feel this directly. It is very simple. The next time you are with someone you love, even for a few minutes, watch them. Not in a way that makes them self-conscious. Just notice them. Watch their face as they speak or listen. Watch their hands. Watch the small movements they make without thinking about them. And as you watch, silently say to yourself, very gently, you are changing right now. Even in this moment, you are not the same as you were a moment ago. You do not need to say this out loud. You do not need to make it into something heavy or strange. It is just a quiet acknowledgement, a noticing. As you do this, you might feel something shift in how you hold the person. The grip might loosen a little. Not because you love them less, but because you are beginning to love what is actually there instead of what you decided was there. The trees do not try to stop each other from growing. They do not demand that the other tree stay exactly as it was when they were young saplings together. They simply grow. They touch when they touch. They move when they move. And in that freedom, in that acceptance of constant change, they remain connected. This is what it means to love without clinging, not to love less, to love what is real. To love someone as they actually are, which is always someone in the process of becoming. To sit with them, complete in yourself, and let them be complete in themselves, and to meet in the space between where you are both changing, both alive, both true. There is something that happens in closeness. Two people draw near, and something in us wants to dissolve the space between them. We reach across it, we fill it, We collapse it, and for a moment it feels like arriving home. But notice what comes after. The very closeness we sought becomes a cage. The person we wanted to merge with becomes the source of our anxiety. We need them to be a certain way. We need them to stay. We need them to want us as much as we want them. And in that needing, the warmth of intimacy turns into something else entirely. This is not a failure of love. It is a misunderstanding of what love actually requires. The Mahayana teachers spoke of this quietly. They did not shame it. They simply observed true intimacy requires space. Without space, there is only merging and loss. This is not poetic language. It is what happens in the body, in the breath, in the actual texture of being with another person. Think of two flames standing close to each other. If they draw too near, they do not burn brighter. They smother. The fire needs air. It needs the space around it to breathe and rise. The moment you press two flames together, you extinguish them both. But if they stand at a distance, with air moving between them, each one burns more fully. Each one is more itself. And the warmth they create together is not less. It is more real, because it is not dependent on the destruction of either one. When we collapse the distance between ourselves and another person, we are trying to make them responsible for our wholeness. We are trying to use their presence to fill something in us that actually cannot be filled by another person. It is an impossible task, and the other person feels it. They feel the weight of being asked to complete someone else, and they pull back, or they stay, but something in them becomes small. We have all felt this, the subtle suffocation of being loved too desperately. The way someone's need can make their presence feel heavy, even when their words are tender. This is not because they are selfish. It is because they are being asked to carry something that was never theirs to carry. The space between two people is not empty. It is alive. It is where each person remains themselves. It is where mystery lives. When you know someone completely, when you have collapsed all the distance, you have actually lost them. You have lost the living, breathing, changing person they are. You have replaced them with a fixed idea of who they should be for you. Real intimacy is different. It is the capacity to be close to someone while allowing them to remain unknown, to love them while letting them be separate, to touch them while respecting the distance that makes them real. This sounds abstract, but it is not. It lives in the body. It lives in the breath. Notice what happens in your chest when you are with someone you love. Does it feel open? Or does it feel like you are holding something tight, trying to keep it from escaping? That tightness is the collapse. That is the merging. And it is exhausting. The two flames need air between them. They need room to move. They need to be able to turn slightly away without the other one dying. This is what allows them to keep burning. When you sit with someone today, in conversation, in silence, in any moment of closeness, you might notice the impulse to fill every gap. The silence comes, and something in you wants to close it, to say something, to reach out, to make sure the other person is still there, still wants you, still sees you. What if you did not? What if you let the silence be there, not as a problem to solve, not as a distance to bridge, but as the air that both of you need? This is not coldness. It is not withdrawal. It is the opposite. It is allowing the other person to breathe. It is allowing yourself to breathe. It is discovering that you do not die in the silence. You do not disappear. You become more present, not less. Let one conversation today have these pauses. Not forced, not as a technique, but as a natural place where the words stop and the presence remains. Notice what happens in that space. Notice whether the other person relaxes slightly. Notice whether something in you stops grasping. The space is not a failure of intimacy. It is the condition of it. When you can rest in silence with another person, without needing to close the gap, something shifts. The love is still there, but it is no longer suffocating. It is no longer trying to be something it cannot be. It is simply two separate people, standing close enough to feel each other's warmth, far enough apart to keep burning. There is a particular kind of pain that comes from loving someone while holding them in a shape they no longer fit. It happens quietly. You wake up one morning and notice they have changed. Not in a way you can point to easily, but something is different. The way they laugh now, the things they care about, the time they want to spend alone. And in that moment, without meaning to, you begin to grieve. Not because they are gone, but because they are no longer the person you decided to love. This is the hidden cost of conditional love. We do not usually think of our love as conditional. We believe we love freely, generously, with an open heart. But if we look closely, we will see that our love comes wrapped in expectations. We love the version of someone that fits with our life, our needs, our sense of who they should be. We love them when they show up as we hoped. And when they shift, when they grow in directions we did not anticipate, or when they simply become more themselves, something in us tightens. We feel betrayed, we feel unsafe. We begin, without realizing it, to pull them back into the shape we recognize. The Buddha taught something simple about this. He said that all things arise and pass. Everything that comes into being will change. Everything that is here will leave. This is not poetic language. This is observation. When you watch your own experience closely, you see it immediately. A breath comes in and goes out. A thought appears and dissolves. A feeling rises and fades. Even this moment right now is already becoming the past. Nothing stays. Nothing remains fixed. When we love someone, we are loving something that is also always changing. Their body changes. Their mind changes. Their needs change. Their understanding of themselves and the world changes. They cannot help but become different people, again and again, across the years. And if our love is built on the belief that they will stay as they are, we are building on sand. There is a bird that visits your window each morning. You have come to expect it. You set out seeds. You arrange your day around the moment it arrives. You have given it a name. You have decided what it means that it comes. And then one morning, it does not appear. Or it appears but flies away quickly. Or it brings a companion you did not anticipate, and you feel the loss. You feel angry at the bird for not keeping its promise. But the bird has made no promise. It belongs to the sky. It comes and goes as wind and hunger and its own nature require. Your love of the bird does not change this. Your need for it to return does not change this. We do this with people. We make them into the bird we need them to be. We construct a story about who they are and what they mean to us. And then we love the story more than we love the actual person in front of us. When the real person moves, we feel abandoned. When they change, we feel hurt. When they become more fully themselves in ways that do not match our image, we feel betrayed. But there is another way to love. It is not softer. It is not less real. It is actually more awake. To love without clinging is to see someone as they actually are in this moment, not as they were. Not as you need them to be, not as you have decided they should become, but as they are right now. This requires a kind of courage, because when you really see someone, you see that they are not yours. They do not belong to you. They belong to their own life, their own becoming, their own path. They are as free as the bird. And they will change whether you like it or not. When you accept this, something shifts. You stop fighting reality. You stop trying to hold water in your hands. And strangely, this makes love possible. Real love. Not the love that depends on someone staying the same, but the love that can meet them again and again as they change. The love that releases them and releases itself moment after moment. This is not something you can think your way into. It is something you practice. And the practice is simple, though not easy. There is someone you love, someone close to you, someone whose changes have caused you pain, someone you have tried to hold in a particular shape. Bring them to mind. See their face. Feel how much you care. And then, silently, in the quiet of your own heart, say something to them, not out loud, just internally. Say, I see you as you are right now, not as I need you to be. Say it slowly. Let it land. I see you as you are right now, not the version I created, not the person I decided you should be, but you as you actually are, in this moment, changing, growing, becoming, free. You might feel resistance, you might feel fear. This is natural. Releasing our grip is frightening. It feels like we are losing something. And we are. We are losing the illusion that we can control love. We are losing the safety of the story we told ourselves. But underneath that fear, there is something else. There is the possibility of loving someone without needing them to be different, of meeting them as they are, of letting them belong to the sky, and of discovering that this kind of love does not diminish. It deepens. It becomes less fragile. Because it is no longer built on the impossible demand that someone remain frozen in time. There is something we do in love that is so quiet we rarely notice it. We meet another person, and almost immediately, we begin to arrange them. Not their furniture or their schedule, but something deeper. We arrange them into a shape that fits a hole inside us. A hole we have been carrying for a long time. This is not the same as wanting someone to be happy. This is something else. This is needing them to be a certain way so that we can feel complete. So that the image we hold of ourselves, the person we think we should be, can finally be true. A woman once described it like this. She needed her partner to be strong so that she could be soft. Not soft by choice, but soft because she had someone to lean on. The softness was not hers. It was a reflection of his strength. When he had a difficult day, when his own doubt appeared, she felt herself collapse. Because the softness she thought was hers was only ever a mirror image of something outside herself. This is what happens when we seek ourselves in another. We bring our emptiness to them like a question, and we wait for them to answer it. We ask them, without words, to be the part of us we cannot find. And they, if they love us, often try. They lean into the shape we have made for them. And for a while it works. We feel whole. We feel seen. We feel like the person we always wanted to be. But a mirror shows only what is brought to it. It never shows what is truly there. The other person, the actual person standing in front of us, becomes invisible. We are so busy looking at our own reflection in their eyes that we never actually see them. And they, standing in that shape we have carved out, begin to feel the weight of it. They feel the pressure of being needed to be something other than what they are. This is not love. This is use. And the deepest part of it is that we do not know we are doing it. The teaching from the old Zen masters was clear. When you seek yourself in another, you find only reflection. The original face remains hidden, not their original face yours. Because while we are busy arranging them into the shape of our completion, we are avoiding the one thing that would actually free us. We are avoiding ourselves. There is a specific kind of suffering in this. It is not the suffering of loss or rejection, though those may come. It is the suffering of never being known, because the person we are with does not know us. They know the version of us that needs them to be a certain way. They know the version of us that is looking at itself in their reflection. But the actual person, the one who is afraid, who is capable, who is broken and whole at the same time, that person is still hidden, and we do not know ourselves either. We have become so practiced at looking outward, at arranging another person into wholeness, that we have forgotten how to look inward. We have forgotten that the hole we are trying to fill with another person is not actually a hole. It is just the shape of being human. It is impermanence. It is the fact that nothing stays the same, and no one can complete us because there is no fixed self to complete. This is where the practice becomes clear, not as a technique, but as a natural question that arises when we see this pattern. The question is simple, and it cuts to the bone. What do I need this person to be so that I can feel whole? Not what do I love about them. Not what do they offer me, but what do I need them to be? What role must they play in the story I am telling myself about who I am? When you ask this question, something shifts, because the answer is usually very specific. I need them to be strong so I can be weak. I need them to be certain so I can doubt. I need them to be happy so I can feel like a good person. I need them to be interested in me so I can believe I matter. The answer is never vague. It is always a shape. And when you see the shape, you can see the hole it was meant to fill. And here is what happens next. If you stay with this question, you begin to notice that the hole was never really there. Or rather, it was there, but it was not a hole in you. It was the natural space of being alive. It was the fact that you do not know what will happen tomorrow. It was the fact that you are always changing. It was the fact that no amount of arrangement can make life stay still. When you see this, something in your chest opens. Not because you have solved the problem, but because you have stopped trying to solve it by using another person. And in that opening, the other person becomes visible for the first time, not as a mirror, not as a role, but as another person who is also trying to find themselves, who is also afraid, who is also whole and broken at the same time. This is when love can actually begin. Not the love that clings, but the love that sees. There is something we have forgotten about love, not something complicated. Something simple that was there all along. We have learned to call love ownership. We have learned to measure it by how tightly we hold, how much we demand to stay, how much we need the other person to be a certain way so that we feel safe. And in that learning, we have made love into something it was not meant to be. Love, when it is real, asks nothing. It simply wishes well, and it lets be. This is hard to feel in a world that teaches us love is possession. We are told that love means never letting go, that it means making the other person yours, that it means they should want what you want, need what you need, stay when you ask them to stay. We are told this is devotion, and we believe it because we are afraid. The fear is simple. If I do not hold tightly, will they leave? If I do not make them mine, will they belong to someone else? If I do not control the shape of them, will they become someone I do not recognize? And so we grip, we demand, we negotiate. We try to write the story of the other person so that it includes us forever. But notice what happens when you grip something. Your hand becomes tense. Your breath becomes shallow. You cannot feel the thing itself anymore, only your fear of losing it. The other person becomes not a person but a symbol, a symbol of your safety, a symbol of your worth, a symbol of whether you are lovable. And that is a very heavy thing to ask another human being to carry. There is another way. It is as simple as sunlight. Sunlight does not grip the earth. It does not demand that the earth stay in the same place or remain unchanged. It does not say, "I will only warm you if you promise never to move into shadow." It simply shines. It warms what it touches. And when a cloud passes, it does not rage. It waits. It returns. It asks nothing of the earth except to be there. This is what metta, what loving kindness actually is. Not the sentiment we have been taught. Not the tight, needy thing we call love in the movies. But a simple, steady wishing of well-being. For the other person. For their freedom. For their happiness. Even if it looks different from what you imagined. When you love this way, something shifts. You are no longer performing love to earn safety. You are no longer loving to secure a contract. You are simply present. And in that presence, there is a quiet strength. Not because you are controlling anything, but because you are not exhausted by trying to. Think of someone you love, not the fantasy of them, the actual person. With their moods and their fears and their separate life that has nothing to do with you. Can you wish them well without needing them to stay? Can you wish them well without needing them to change? Can you wish them well without needing them to prove their love back to you in a way that feels safe? This is not coldness. It is the opposite. It is the warmth of sunlight, present, steady, asking nothing, harming nothing. The problem we have is that we have confused love with need. We have made them the same thing. We say, "I need you to love me," and we call it love. We say, "I cannot live without you," and we call it devotion. But need is not love. Need is fear wearing the mask of love. Real love can hold need, can hold the human reality that we do depend on each other, that we are not islands. But it does not become strangled by need. It does not demand that the other person fix what is broken inside us. It does not ask them to be responsible for our wholeness. When you release the grip, something unexpected happens. The other person becomes more real. You see them more clearly. You can actually be with them, instead of being with the story you have written about them. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, they relax too. They stop performing. They stop trying to be what you need them to be. And in that space, something genuine can grow. This is the teaching that has been offered for a very long time. Not new, not complicated, just forgotten. So here is what is possible today, not as a rule, not as something you must do to be good, but as a small opening. Find one person and offer them one act of kindness that expects nothing back. Not a grand gesture, something simple, a word, an action, something that says, "I see you, I wish you well," and then let it go. Do not wait for them to thank you. Do not keep score. Do not tell yourself the story of how generous you are. Simply offer it, like sunlight offers warmth, and then release it. Notice what happens in your own body when you do this. Notice if the grip loosens. Notice if there is a quiet ease that comes when you are not waiting for something in return. This is love that does not cling. This is presence without demand. This is the warmth that asks nothing and gives everything. You might notice, even now, a small tightness when you think of someone you love. Not dramatic. Just a faint pull, a quiet holding on. That's not wrong. It's human. The question is whether you can feel it without feeding it. Love doesn't ask you to let go of people. It asks you to stop holding them in place. To stop building a story about what they should be, what they owe you, what their presence guarantees. The tightness comes from that story. The warmth comes from something else. You can love someone and still let them change. You can care deeply and still allow distance. You can feel tender and still release the need to control how they see you, how they stay, how they return. This isn't coldness, it's trust. Not trust that everything will go your way. Trust that you can meet what comes. When you notice the clinging, you don't have to push it away. You can just see it. Oh, there it is, the wanting. The fear underneath the wanting. The belief that if this person leaves, or shifts, or disappoints, something in you will collapse. You can feel that belief without acting on it. You can let it be there, the way you let a cloud pass. The breath doesn't cling to the body. It moves in, it moves out. The body doesn't cling to the breath. It receives, it releases. Somewhere in that rhythm is the shape of love that doesn't bind. You open, you let go, you meet again. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop confusing care with control. You stop mistaking attachment for devotion. You stop thinking that love requires you to grip tightly, to monitor constantly, to make sure nothing slips away. Love can be spacious. It can hold someone without enclosing them. And when the clinging does arise, when you feel that pull to hold on, to fix, to secure, you can pause. You can notice the sensation in your chest, the tension in your hands, the thought that says, if I don't hold this, I'll lose it. You can breathe with that. You can see it as a moment of fear, not a command. The people you love will change. They will grow in directions you didn't expect. They will need things you can't give. They will disappoint you, not because they're failing, but because they're human, and you will disappoint them. Not because you're broken, but because no one can be everything for someone else. What remains when you stop asking them to stay the same? What remains when you stop needing them to complete you? Something quieter. Something that doesn't demand. A kind of presence that can hold joy and loss in the same hand. You don't have to practice this perfectly. You don't have to become someone who never clings, never tightens, never wants. You just notice when it happens. You feel the clinging as clinging. You see the story as a story, and in that seeing something loosens. Maybe tonight, or tomorrow, or next week, you'll notice it again. The small contraction around someone you love. The fear dressed up as care. And maybe you'll remember that you don't have to act on it. You can just let it be. You can love them and let them be free. You can love yourself and let yourself be free. This isn't the end of anything. It's just a place to rest. If you want to keep sitting with these ideas, there are other reflections here. No pressure, just an invitation. But for now, let yourself settle. Let the question sit with you, unanswered. Not because you need to solve it, but because some questions are meant to be lived with. What would it feel like to love someone without needing them to stay exactly as they are?